Well, if it's anything, the Washington Redskins are consistent. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Going to be reviewing a little bit of the Philadelphia Eagle-Washington Redskins game, Week 1. The Philadelphia Eagles end up snapping a 5-game losing streak to the Washington Redskins. This will be the first loss that Kirk Cousins has had against Philly. But we are consistent at not winning home openers. That was one of the major things that really had me worried about this game coming in, was the fact that we've never won a home opener, and I'm not necessarily one up for superstition, but when it comes to this team, they often have you thinking otherwise when it comes to superstition. Both teams, in my opinion, did not play their absolute best football. Both teams had some Week 1 jitters going on. Both teams had some mistakes. Both teams, I feel, had dodged a bullet as far as penalties were concerned, namely us. But there were some things that were positive on our end. There were some things that were positive on theirs. We're not here to concentrate on the Philadelphia Eagles, but to concentrate on what was going on with us. It doesn't surprise me, it doesn't shock me whatsoever that we were having a hard time getting started on offense. I do not consider, nor have I ever considered Jay Gruden to be a magnificent play caller. He is a great passing play caller. He's a great quarterbacks type coach. This is the first year that he's ever had head coaching and basically play calling duties thrown over to him, even though we have an offensive coordinator, and I'm not sure exactly what it is he's doing up in the stands or up in the press box area as an offensive coordinator. If I was him, I'd be up there drinking Mai Tais and eating Haagen-Dazs, but there were a lot of things that I think, given our coaching personnel, that really should have been addressed, but we'll get to that in a second. First and foremost, the number one thing that I want to come out and say right now, and I have immediately jumped on this individual's, I've jumped this guy's crap every single time I've had an opportunity to, and this particular game, I'm going to have to give kudos to Ryan Grant. With as quick as I've been to tear him down, I also need to be really, really quick to acknowledge his good gameplay. And he had great gameplay today. He's played the best in this game that I've ever seen him play. This is the best game I've ever seen him play. And if this is the promise that this coaching staff has seen in him, and if this is what I see on a consistent basis, then I won't consider him a complete, absolute waste of our time, because I've wanted this guy gone last year. And I was very, very vocal about wanting this guy gone last year. He came out against a division rival and did really, really well against Philly. And I think there were some plays that were specifically designed for him, and I think there were some plays that specifically targeted him because of the coverages and the mismatch and the matchups. So he stepped up to the plate, and he did the one thing that he doesn't normally do when it comes to playing on Sunday, and that's freeze. So I'm thinking that maybe a little bit of what it is we're seeing on the practice field is starting to come out. It's only taken about 3 years for this to take place. You know, most teams don't have the patience or the wherewithal to put up with 3 years of absolute garbage. But he's come out this time around, and, you know, who knows? Maybe 2017 is his season. Maybe this is going to be his year to light it up and actually show us who he is. So not the best game I've seen. Actually, this is the best game that I've seen out of him. So kudos to Ryan Grant. Next, Rob Kelley. I know that there are some fans out there that are hot on Rob Kelley, that really, really enjoy Rob Kelley, and I have had mixed emotions when it comes to Rob Kelley. I've never been a huge banner waver of this individual's, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I want him gone, because right now he's probably one of the best running backs we've got on this team, and he's going to be a viable option for us this year. And he does have, very, very fleetingly, he does have a few moments where it's like, okay, you did good. And I'm going to tell you right now, it is very, very difficult for me to tell what it is that I don't necessarily like about Rob. There's a couple of things that I don't like about him, and one of the things I will tell you right now is his vision is not... I think there's a latency between his vision and his reaction time, because he does not react. And it's hard to say how he should react, because to sit here and make that comment, you'd have to know how he should react. And I'm not there. I'm not making the plays for him. But there are just things that you would expect a guy with his athletic ability to be able to do. And The one thing that does drive me nuts about it is actually two things that drive me nuts about him, and one of them I'll get off my chest right now. The number one thing one of the things that I don't like about Rob Kelly is I don't like the way he secures the football. I've never really liked the way that he secures the football, and I think that that's going to come and bite him in the rear end later on. That was one of the things that I didn't like about Matt Jones, and look what happened to him. He ended up fumbling the ball, against the New York Giants at times when it really did not help this football team to do so. And I'm not going to sit here and say Rob Kelly is going to be a fumbling machine, but he just does not have the ability to secure the football, especially when he's running through the line of scrimmage. There's times when he does, and there's times when he doesn't. You can tell when he gets out in full stride and he starts to feel comfortable, he drops that other hand and he gives it, 2 points of security. And this is in the midst of being tackled, and I don't necessarily like, because these guys go for strips all the time when they go to make tackles. I just have a feeling that sooner or later he's going to be coughing this pill up. And I can understand if you cough the pill up, once, maybe twice, but beyond that, you're going to start getting into the Matt Jones territory, and that's when you finally start realizing that this is the not-for-long league. The second thing about Rob Kelly that I'm not really all that hot on is the guy, if you watch him on some plays, he has a way of making a stutter step, but he slows way down when he does it. And I can't stand that. When you lose momentum, you are working for the defense. It is a huge feather in the defense's cap. If you see a gap and you see a lane that you want to run through, he's not one of those guys that has quick lateral movement. He's not one of those guys that can change direction and speed inside of 2 or 3 steps. He's got a 3-step stutter where he slows down and then he goes to make his break. And by the time that 4th and 5th step happens, is usually when he needs to make that break faster somehow. And the only thing that I can say is he needs to stop with the stutter step. And I don't know if it needs to come down to a hop and a jump. I don't know if that stutter needs to be... He needs to lower his center of gravity more. I can tell you that right now. He runs way too straight up and down for me. So he's not behind his pads enough. He's not low enough to the ground. He spends a little bit of time a little bit too upright. And the problem with being upright like that is if you go to change directions, at first you got to have your body to be able to slow down, to lower your center of gravity, and then make your move. And that's part of the problem. You need to be able to already have a low center of gravity before you make your move. All that being said, the next individual on this offense that really... Morgan Moses had the worst football game that I've ever seen him play. This is... I remember when Morgan Moses came in and was vying for that tackle position, and he struggled. And he had given up a couple sacks, and he had a hard time run blocking, and he just kind of looked like he didn't necessarily know what he was doing out there. And Burgundy Fly Guy, gave the guy a little bit of a chance because he was new. He's hadn't had that much time in the league. He was getting picked on by defensive linemen, defensive linebackers. When they were blitzing his gap a lot, he was having a hard time on the shift. He was having a hard time maintaining gap integrity when it comes to pass protection. He's had time to overcome this. He's had time to play better. And there was rumors of him not playing very well and not doing very well in this last off season. So I don't know if there's something that's going on there, but we've got one of the highest paid coaching staffs, especially at the offensive line position. This is a position that needs to get figured out real fast. And I mean right now fast. Real fast. Because the Philadelphia Eagles were going at... honestly, I don't even think they're really exploiting this as much of a weakness as much as that they had a defensive lineman who just knew he was going to get by him. And most of the time, I'm just watching Morgan Moses thinking, is it that he's out of shape? Is he overweight? I was on here online looking up his weight, trying to figure out how much of a discrepancy between now and the last 2 years. And I don't really see that much of a discrepancy, not that you can believe these numbers anyway. He may look a little bit heavier, but honestly, guys, I just think it really comes down to heart. I don't think his head's in it right now. So I don't know what's going on with him. He's had a couple of weeks to snap out of it since the preseason. It hasn't happened yet. And in this game against a division rival, you can't not go out there and not have your head on straight, man. I don't care what you're going through. You can't do it. You're a paid professional, and these games count so much when they're against a division rival. You can't afford to drop a game like this. You can't afford to have a bad game like this. And if you've been having bad games in the preseason, and then you come out with a showing like this against Philly at home, there's some major problems, and I fully and completely, as a fan, expect this situation to get fixed real fast. And I don't care if it's a situation where you got to sit there and figure it out with Morgan Moses. Do whatever the hell it is you got to do, or you got to replace him. I don't care what it is you do. That situation's got to get fixed real fast. It's got to get fixed now, because we cannot have that kind of pressure on our quarterback and expect us to make plays. It's just it can't happen. I was surprised to see that Sean Loval stepped up fairly well this week against this defensive line. Look, this defensive line is a really, really good defensive line, and I was really, really worried with the people that they had on this offensive line. I was really, really worried about the Jernigan signing. To me, was the hugest thing for them. I was shocked when they picked up Timmy Jernigan. I really, really liked him as a defensive lineman. It was sad to see him go to another football team. He was really, really high on him. We didn't have much of a running game. I wasn't expecting much of a running game, but I was expecting a little bit more out of the passing game. The deep balls to Pryor, I don't understand. I don't get it. I think we are sold on the idea that Terrell Pryor is only a few tenths of a second slower than Deshaun Jackson. On paper, that is probably true. But I'm telling you right now, on the field, it's not. He's not faster than Deshaun Jackson. You cannot compare him to a Deshaun Jackson. You can't. And part of the reason why I don't think you can compare him to a Deshaun Jackson is Terrell Pryor suffers from the one thing that tall sprinters suffer from. Tall sprinters have a hard time at sprints because they're long-legged. They have long legs, they have long arms, and it takes a lot longer for them to build momentum and to get to a higher speed. That's why the shorter guys, especially at the short intermediate sprinting events, do a lot better, because they're so much lower to the ground. Their limbs are a little bit smaller, they can pedal faster, and they're just more explosive. I'm not saying Deshaun Jackson's a small dude. I'm saying that Terrell Pryor's a big dude. And even though he may at some point be comparable in speed, I don't think his break out of a stationary position after the ball is being snapped is adequate to be consistent with throwing all of these deep passes. I understand what he's probably saying. Just throw it deep and I'll get underneath it and I'll make the play. It hasn't happened, and we kept going back to it. I'll tell you what I want to see. What I want to see is I want to see more sideline work out of Terrell Pryor. That's what I would want out of him as an offensive weapon on this football team. I would take every single one of those deep passes and I would substitute them for something between the hash mark and the out of bounds line. I would be looking for something high, and I'd be looking for something that's pushing the out of bounds to where only he can get it. We've seen plays like this before with people who've had long limbs. That's what I would be working on. Not that would necessarily be successful, because Terrell Pryor had a couple of drop passes in this game where he should have caught them. And I even have in my notes, guys. In my notes, one of my captions that I made in this notes is it the gloves? Is that what the problem is? Because sometimes gloves can be a problem. Is he practicing in these gloves? Is he wearing these gloves in his sleep? He better be, because if he's going to wear them on game day, I want him to catch everything that's coming his way, and I want him to be comfortable with whatever it is he's got in his hands, if anything at all. And it looks to me like somebody just gave him gloves in the locker room and said, go out and play, you'll catch with these no matter what. And he had a couple of those drop passes, especially with the last drive, that right over the top of his head, and he had two hands on it, and he was unable to come down with it. That's unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. I don't care where that ball is placed. If you got two hands on it, especially when it's in your catcher's in the catching radius of your body, you need to come down with that pass. Those are the types of plays that Pierre Garçon came down with. Those are the things that we are going to miss now that guy is gone. This guy in Terrell Pryor was supposed to be a substitute for Pierre Garçon, and this was one of the major reasons that we had as fans as to our worries for bringing a Terrell Pryor and substituting him for an $8 million receiver in Pierre Garçon. Now we're starting to see it. Honestly, I want to see improvement in this area. I'm not about to pass judgment on Terrell Pryor because he's new at the position. He's still got a lot to learn. He's got a new quarterback that he's thrown to, a new system. I'm going to give him time, but god damn it, I better start seeing some meat on my plate in the next couple of weeks. You better start catching everything in that catching radius, and I swear to God, it's going to drive me absolutely insane. This kid's got to figure it out. This is the pros, and we can't afford to be dropping games like this. Who next? Kirk Cousins. Kirk, I think honestly, I think Kirk played a very, very good game considering. He was under pressure a lot. We had a hard time picking up that blitz, and Philadelphia knew it. Philadelphia knew it. What is it with this team in blitzes? I don't understand. I don't get that. And I don't even think we're calling the adequate plays to compensate for blitzing. Here's the thing. Here's one thing that I want you guys to pay attention to. I have an assignment for all my fans of the BFG show. I have an assignment for you, and I want you to pay attention to this. I want you to write this down, and I want you to take a look at this when you watch future Redskin games, because I'm going to be watching it, and I'm going to be coming back to this later on in the season, because I have a feeling that this is a thing. One of the things that Kirk Cousins said in his interview in this offseason was he was talking about being able to have time to make a play at the line of scrimmage. In other words, he needed time coming out of the huddle to be able to take a look at the defense that was presented to him so that he could make the proper adjustments and they would have more success throwing the football, what have you. I didn't necessarily see that this year. There were times when he had 10 seconds coming out of the huddle, and he's mentioned this. He says, if I get out of the huddle, if I got 15 seconds left, I feel way better about the play because that gives me time to take a look at what to do. It gives me time to take a look at the defense, what it is that they're giving me, and adjust my coverages, adjust my protection accordingly. I didn't hear too many audibles in this game. I heard a couple, but not too many. That's problematic when you got teams like this that are blitzing against you on a consistent basis. But I want you to take a look at as soon as we break the huddle and get to the line of scrimmage, how much time is left on that clock? Is it 5 seconds? Is it 10 seconds? Because if it's anything shy of 15 seconds, that's not something that I think is going to be comparable to success for this offense no matter what play we've called. He needs time at the line. And it's not just the play calling that's getting him out of the huddle late. It's also him snapping the ball early. There were a couple of plays in this game where he had 12 seconds left on the clock and he snaps the ball. Now, granted, one of those times that I saw was on the last drive when we were playing for time, and I understand that. I get that. But there were a couple times before the half. There was a couple times after the half. A couple of times, I didn't write them down. I need to start writing them down. I think I'm going to. Where I'm like, dude, you had 7-8 seconds left. I want you utilizing every single bit of time. And if you take a look at the absolute professionals at this game, you start taking a look at the Drew Breeses, and especially the Aaron Rodgers of the field. And you even sometimes you take a look at the Tom Brady's. I don't even know if I necessarily want to throw Tom Brady in there because he's just in a completely different league in regards to this issue. But you start taking a look at the Ben Roethlisbergers. You start taking a look at some of these guys who are consummate proven professional quarterbacks at their position, have been doing it for years. These guys oftentimes will utilize the full-time clock. They will utilize that entire clock before they end up snapping the ball. They want to be sure. They want to see what coverages you're going to give them. They're going to see if you're going to do any shifting. They're going to see if they can start to shimmy protection this way, or if they've got a mismatch that they didn't account for over here. You can't just necessarily go up think you know what you want, and then even if you know where you're going to go, no matter what the coverage, no matter what the down and distance is, no matter what the protection is, even if you know where you're going to go, what is the big damn hurry? What's the big hurry? Sit there. Take all the time that you possibly can. So what I would do if I was you guys, I would pay attention to how much time is on the clock when he leaves the huddle. Is the plays getting him there on time? Is he coming out of the huddle with 15 seconds left on the clock so he can get time to read the defense? Because there are plenty of times in this game where he didn't. Plenty of times he had to come up and snap that ball and make the play because time was going to run out. Another thing I want to mention, Jordan Reed. We spent a lot of time passing the ball around to Jamison Crowder, Terrell Pryor. There were some Ryan Grant plays in there. We got some stuff out to Ryan Quick. Quick had a really good pickup off for us on third down. Not too much from Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed cost us in penalties. I believe Jordan Reed had a drop pass in the end zone. His play has got to... I remember, I think it was the second half, thinking to myself, towards the end of the second half, we had just got done throwing a truck. I was actually third quarter. Third quarter, we got done throwing several passes to Terrell Pryor, and I'm thinking, we need to sprinkle in a little bit more Jordan Reed here. You can't tell me that this linebacking core for the Philadelphia Eagles is so awesome to the point where we can't get some tight end play in here. I mean, Jordan Reed is one of the best tight ends in the entire NFL, and we're not utilizing him. We're not utilizing him. Of course, he's got an injury. I understand that. I understand he's not exactly 100%, but that's a guy that plays with heart. That's a guy that plays with ambition. That's a guy that wants the football, and that's a guy you've got to get the football. I think that with a couple of catches, he would have felt better about this game, and he probably would have performed better because we've seen him do that in the past. I just need to see a little bit more plays directed towards that individual when the mismatches are there, because I know they're there. The blitzing on third down, this was something that was driving me crazy because they weren't exactly hiding it. They didn't exactly disguise the fact that they were going to do it. And yet, for some reason, we've got guys running 15 and 12-yard breaking routes, and it's 15-yard post patterns. It's like you do not have time to formulate a 5 to 6 step drop back play while somebody runs 15 yards on a button hook and waits to catch the foot. You don't have time for that. You've got 8 men rushing the quarterback. You got 8 men rushing the quarterback, and there is nothing to compensate for that. There was nothing in the first half. I'm thinking to myself, we've got to come out with something after halftime, because for Christ's sake, I can see it. And if I can see it, who else can see it? I mean, I'm not a coach at the professional level by any stretch of the imagination, but if I can see it, and if I know it's coming, you've got to be able to compensate somehow. You got to be able to have time at the line of scrimmage and say, oh shit, there's 8 men in the box. They're all coming at me. I think I'm going to throw an audible in here somewhere. I think I'm going to adjust my coverage. I think I'm going to swing somebody on a shallow drag route behind the linebackers and throw it to them in an open window because the window is there because they're rushing 8 people. You do the math. If you're rushing 8, who's back to protect? Nobody. 0. There's nobody back there. Instead, he ends up taking a 5-step drop back and getting his ass handed to him. That doesn't make any sense. Sure it does. Just do it over and over and over again. It'll work. It'll work. I'm going to go on to the defense because the offense is going to have me hanging myself from dental floss from my ceiling here pretty soon. The defense played a hell of a lot better than I expected. I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. I was expecting our offense to have some glitches, to not necessarily do so well to live up to our potential, maybe sputter a little bit, but actually have some plays where we're going to do really, really well. I wasn't expecting much. I wasn't expecting anything out of the running game, and I definitely got that. But I was expecting us to always be having to rush on offense because our defense wasn't going to be able to cut. I expected a lot of third down conversions in this game. My opinion on our defense this year has started to swing just a little bit. Just a little bit, not much. We still got a lot to work on, a ton to work on. But there were some 3 and outs in this game. There were some third down conversions that didn't make it. There was some goal line stoppages in here. There was definitely some potential. And I told you guys before, watch Zach Brown play. That's what a middle linebacker position is supposed to look like. Junior Galette, I was impressed with Junior Galette's play. Even though we did not see his name a whole lot in this game, he did get a sack, and that was good. But just the mere fact that he got on the football field, and I got to tell you, I was noticing some Junior Galette moves out there, some things that look very, very promising. It just so happens that the offense was able to get the ball out on time, or Carson Wentz is just a slippery little bastard. All things being equal, I was impressed to see with what Junior Galette has been able to do, simply because his injuries have plagued him. He's not been on the field for 2 years, and for a guy who's been out of the game for 2 years, I expected a lot less. And he impressed me, and I expect him to maintain that and to get that feel for being back in the game and to continue to do what it is he's going to do, because he's going to be a valuable pass rusher for us. Mason Foster could have played a lot better. Blown coverages in this game, missed tackles. There was times in this game where he played really, really well. Sometimes in this game where he made some stoppages that were awesome. There was one of the plays early on, and I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Torrey that ended up getting the pass. I can't remember exactly who it was, but there was a play on there where it was man-to-man coverage, and Mason Foster was man-to-man on a wide receiver, and he broke. Carson Wentz was scrambling, was running towards the line of scrimmage, and 15 yards, 20 yards off the football, Mason Foster breaks off of his man and ends up going towards Carson. Like, what in the hell are you even possibly thinking that you're going to do, being that far off the ball to break off of your man? And as soon as he breaks off his man, Carson Wentz tosses the football to his guy, and he ends up, I think that was the touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go back and take a look at it. But that was a huge, huge blunder on his part. He's a guy that I expect to see more from as the season rolls along. Somebody I expect to learn from that middle linebacker position when it comes to Zach Brown. Zach Brown played a phenomenal game. Phenomenal game. Was very, very impressed with him. Junior Galette did really, really well. I'm going to have to go back and take a look and see who... Preston Smith did really, really well in the beginning of this game, but he was non-existent in the second half of this game. Made some really good run stoppage plays, but I'm at the point where I want to see more consistency out of that guy. I just want to see him play well, and I haven't really seen a whole lot of that. I didn't see any of it last year. I just want to see more of it this year, and he's a guy that I've got my eye on. move full swing back on over to Ryan Kerrigan. You know, this was a subject last year, guys. If you remember, last year, you know, Ryan Kerrigan ate the Philadelphia Eagles up for lunch. I mean, he really did. It was really, really difficult for the Philadelphia Eagles to have that Vaitai kid in there because he went up against an all-pro in Ryan Kerrigan, and Ryan Kerrigan dominated him. And we were thinking, of course, coming into this game, that may not necessarily be the case. Now, last year, Lane Johnson got suspended for PEDs. That was one of the reasons why he was not playing, and Vaitai had to play against Ryan Kerrigan the whole game, and Ryan Kerrigan had several sacks. Ended up ripping off Carson Wentz's jersey, and it was a phenomenal game for Ryan Kerrigan, but I remember saying at the time, hey, he's not going to have this kind of a game normally because he went up against a backup tackle. This game, Vaitai played pretty much the whole time. But Lane Johnson was in there. And Lane Johnson was getting eaten up just as much as Vaitai was. Lane Johnson played a horrible game, in my opinion, especially when it came to Ryan Kerrigan. Ryan Kerrigan got to the quarterback on several occasions, did not necessarily bring him down, did not necessarily sack him, and I realize at the end of the day that matters. But if I'm an Eagles fan, I am really, really worried about that Lane Johnson position. And I can tell you right now, if I'm going up against the Eagles again, which I know I am this season, that's going to be a position I'm going to want to exploit. I'm going to throw a couple blitzes in there. Because I can tell you right now, if he's having a hard time picking up Ryan Kerrigan, I'm going to throw a double switch on him. I'm going to throw a switch on him. I may even throw a stunt his way. Because I think he's going to be so concentrating on trying to pick up Ryan Kerrigan that he's not going to be able to pick up the switch. He's not going to be able to pick up the stunt. I just don't think he's going to be able to do it. Same thing with Vaitai. Now, Kerrigan, of course, played great. He had that pick, and how many times have I complained about Kerrigan being back in the zone playing passing coverage? I've complained about it a lot, and he stuffed it in my face this week. He ended up getting a pick on a ball that was tipped just slightly, still catchable by an Eagles player as far as I'm concerned, but was able to take that pass and intercept it and move it into the end zone, which his third touchdown of his career. Phenomenal job on his part. I'm hugely impressed with Ryan Kerrigan, especially with the way he's been able to maintain himself and his performance over the last couple of seasons. He still continues to be a consummate pass rusher for us. Josh Norman, I felt, played a very, very good game for us. There were a couple times, I think, where he may have had some mix-ups on his part, but it was nothing really big. I don't think there was any penalties against him in this game, which is rare. Some great breakups. Philly was not afraid of him. And that was one thing that shocked me. Philly was not afraid to throw to Josh Norman, and Josh Norman on some big plays was able to come up and step up for us and be the player that we're paying him to be. So that was really, really good to see out of him. One of the things that was of major concern is that Carson Wentz did not play the greatest of games. There were a lot of passes that were overthrown, some passes that were underthrown, and let's face it, I counted up to three times where he threw a bad pass that if it would have connected, and if it would have connected in stride, they would have gone for touchdowns. At least 3 times, and 2 of them I know you guys know what I'm talking about, but there was at least, the third one may have been questionable, but there were 2 definitely that would have gone for 6, and should have gone for 6. And if it would have been anybody else in this league at a professional level that had any bit of experience, would have thrown those for touchdowns. This would have been a much more high-scoring game against us. It would have put us in a much different position. It would not have been as close as it was. But Carson Wentz did not play the greatest of games. There were several passes in there that he threw that were absolutely phenomenal. But then there were some passes that he threw in there that was like, dude. I mean, that was a pretty easy pass, and you should have made that, and I'm really, really glad you didn't. But there's got to be some Eagle fans out there getting pissed off at you right now because that was an easy pass. So, blown coverages, getting beat deep. These were all things that happened to us on defense, but they did not get exploited because of quarterback wide receiver play. Something to be concerned about because that's not going to happen to us all the time. Now, DeShazier Everett did impress me in this game. I was impressed with some of the things that he had to do. I'm going to have to go back and really kind of pay attention more to what it was that he did. You can only pay attention to so many positions when you watch something on the first time through. There's only so much that you can catch. But there were several times when his name was called, several times that I noticed where he had stepped up. That was really, really good to see. So I'm excited about that. Good play out of him. And Honestly, I think this is his third year. I think he played fairly well, and I'm expecting some good things out of him. DJ Swearinger, I think, had a couple plays in here where he got beat deep. I don't necessarily know if the coverage required him to be deep. Some plays that he ended up getting saved because of plays from Bashard Breeland and plays by Josh Norman where they should have had over the top help and they didn't necessarily get it. DJ Swearinger is not a guy who's going to get to a deep third and be able to break a deep third on a speedster, not unless he sees it coming. He's just not that type of a safety. He doesn't have that kind of wheel speed. But I think DJ Swearinger being one of the captains on this defense, he is who he is, and he's good at what he's good at, and he does have weaknesses, and I think he tries to compensate for those weaknesses as best he can, which is what any professional football player should do. Now, one of the things that I will mention that I just suddenly realized, the play that Kerrigan had made the touchdown on, and I saw it as soon as it happened, and it worried me. There were several times in this game where we dodged a bullet. The first dodge bullet that we had was the holding penalty that didn't get called on Trent Williams when Ryan Grant ran the football and he was being escorted by the big left tackle. They ended up throwing a penalty flag on that play, but they ended up rescinding that penalty flag and ended up calling it a no penalty. Now, granted, you cannot grab a player around the shoulders in the commission of a block. And that's not necessarily what Trent Williams did. But that's not necessarily what makes the play illegal. Having your hands up in that general area in the commission of a block is, from my understanding, an illegal play. I've seen them make these calls before. You don't necessarily have to grab anymore and to make a blocking maneuver. You have to be in the commission of a block, and if your hands are around that upper area, they're supposed to call it. That's supposed to be illegal. And when we had that play, I automatically said it's coming back because Trent Williams was holding. And the only reason why I thought he was holding is because his feet were moving, he was in the commission of a block, and his hands were in the upper shoulder area. But I think that they didn't call it because he didn't exactly grab. As soon as his hands were up there, he tried to maneuver his hands down below, which I think they gave him the benefit of the doubt on. Does that make it legal? According to this game, yes. And yes, that call is probably going to change, however the referees see fit. Did we dodge a bullet? In my opinion, I think we did. I think we dodged a huge bullet because that one could have ended up coming back. And I do believe that was a third down play. So we would have ended up having a 3-and-out in that play. The other major one was when McGee tipped the football and Ryan Kerrigan got the interception and ran it in for a touchdown. McGee did slap Carson Wentz in the head. That is a flag. That is a flaggable offense. Even in the commission of making a block, if your hand comes down and swipes the quarterback's head, that is illegal. That actually got called against Philadelphia in D.C. last year, and we had that call go in our favor. And this year, on the opposite end of that spectrum, we end up hitting him in the head, hitting Carson Wentz in the head, and it ends up not working. I believe even the ref ended up yelling at Carson Wentz. I don't know what it was that he ended up saying to him, but I'm pretty sure it was in disagreement about that being a penalty. In my opinion, we dodged a bullet on that one too. A big bullet that we dodged because, yes, he hit him in the head. Yes, he's in the commission of, he was inside the pocket, he was in the commission of throwing the football. You cannot touch the football player's head, or you cannot touch the quarterback's head. You cannot touch the quarterback's pretty little head at any point of time between the whistles. They're pretty little, perfect little heads. Can't be touched. Touched, no. Got to throw a flag on that. But it ended up going our way. You're not going to hear Burgundy Fly Guy complain. Because God knows there were plenty of plays last year that didn't get called that should have went our way. Cincinnati Bengals game in London. So I'm going to take the good with the bad. I'll definitely take this one. But definitely two major plays for us that ended up going our way that I think we kind of dodged a bullet on that were probably illegal, but congrats to the Philadelphia Eagles. Congrats to their football team coming out with their first win. This is one that they were due. I work with a lot of Philadelphia Eagle fans. I don't know why. What is it with Philadelphia Eagle fans on the West Coast? I don't get it. All of a sudden, they've started popping out of the woodwork. Is it the Carson Wentz thing? I mean, I don't know. I got them talking to two of them the other day, and they couldn't tell me who their starting left tackle was. Think about that. Great first game for us. There's definitely a lot of stuff that we need to work on, a lot more to work on than what I thought we did. Defense, I felt, there's some building blocks here. There's some upside. There's some potential. Definitely still things that we need to work on. On offense, we got a lot to work on. Again, as usual, this is a unit and this is a squad that should be well beyond this by now. This thing should be clicking on all 4 cylinders at this point. And I'd have to say we're clicking on about 1 or 2. We're not at complete ineptitude at this point, but, you know, I wouldn't even say we're close to ineptitude, but we're definitely sputtering. We are not a well-oiled machine at all. And there's some things, mental errors, the mental errors in this football game, huge mental errors. Who was it? Jamison Crowder, I think. I can't remember who it was. Who was it? Caught the punt return that fumbled it, and Philadelphia recovered. I mean, God, you gotta be kidding me. You jump up in the air like Pollyanna, you Anne of Green Gables, jumping in the air, clicking your heels 3 times like Dorothy before you catch a football. What the hell? Who teaches that? Who teaches that fundamental? Because that's one that got by me. It got by me. I haven't seen that method before. Never heard of it. It's a new one. A lot of things we got to work on. Being lined up in the neutral zone. You don't get more base. I think they teach that in Pee Wee. I'm pretty sure they teach that in Pee Wee. You can ask any kid, any 9-year-old in Texas that puts on the pads where you should line up. He'll be able to tell you. It's not that hard. It's pretty simple. So Matt Ioannidis, you got to figure it out, buddy. You're professional. Act like please be professional. Just act like a professional. Just know where you're supposed to line up at all times. Know where you're supposed to be. Don't cost the team when it comes to stupid penalties. You played great today, by the way. Very impressed with Matt Ioannidis. Didn't make a whole lot of notice on the camera, but there were definitely things that I was impressed with when it come to him. And he's a late draft pick for us. I'm going to wrap it up as far as that's concerned, guys. That's pretty much all I have to say. This is a horrible loss for us. A lot of things we need to build on. I'm not exactly happy losing to a division rival at home. I think Philadelphia was pretty much kind of due. They've suffered a lot of losses to us when it comes to Kirk Cousins. I'll bring up something else that I completely forgot about that I need to mention. Kirk Cousins played his ass off in this football game, even though a lot of things didn't necessarily go his way, and he could have played a lot better football in some cases. I am worried about him running and wanting to go head-to-head with football players. I saw him on 2 or 3 different occasions on 3rd down where he insists on tucking the ball away and going head-to-head and smashing it up with, look, if you don't make the play, I'm fine with that. But if you get hurt, if you get out on a concussion protocol, guess how close we come to winning this game? We don't. So if you got to slide, if you got to protect yourself and you don't quite get it there, I'm not going to sit here and complain about how you don't have any grit, how you don't have any balls, you don't have any guts, because I know that from that point on you're still going to be playing. Whereas any point in time, anybody in that blue tarp can say, no, come here, stand right here. How many fingers do you see? You park your ass right over there. You ain't playing. And that happens all the time, by the way, whether you have a concussion or not. So he needs to be very, very careful. Ran a couple read options in this game. It was good to see that. It's nice to see that work for us. But again, no reason to go head-to-head. Please slide. Please, baseball slide. Don't take those big shots to the helmet. We don't need another Robert Griffin on our team. Please and thank you. I got an announcement. And I'll announce this later on in another video. It's going to be a short video that I come out with in the next couple of days. I am considering watching this game again on the internet. And I will post exactly where that will be. I'm going to give full and complete credit to this, by the way, to Redskins Review. Redskins Review did this last year where he watched the Tampa Bay game over again. And I want to do that. I want to get into doing that on a consistent basis if I can. I want to try to do that on Wednesdays. I'm looking at about Wednesday, 6 o'clock Pacific time. So if you're on the East Coast, which I think a lot of you are, figure out exactly when that is. I think that's about 8 o'clock your guys' time where you log on and catch me watching these games live. It's a live stream situation, and I will be showing you guys kind of what it is that I'm looking at. I'll show you guys what it is that I see. Do not expect me to watch the game from completion, beginning to end, and just sit there. That's not what I do. A lot of it's probably going to be boring, because I'm going to be watching certain plays over and over and over again, because I want to know, I want to see technique, I want to see execution, I want to see hand placement, I want to see foot movement, and you don't get those things by watching it one time through. You get it by doing it like they do it. You watch it over and over and over again, and you're making your comments as you're doing it. I don't profess to be a professional, but there are things that I see that I think I'm right on, and I wouldn't mind giving my opinion on that. So if that's something that you're interested in, look forward to my next video. I'm going to come out with that probably tomorrow. In fact, I need to come out with that tomorrow, Monday, and let you guys know exactly where to tune in for that, what channel to go on to. And if you guys are interested in doing that, if I get enough people, that's something I plan to do every Wednesday. We'll be reviewing the former Redskins game and watching that with you guys. If I get time, I may even do it for some future teams too, because I would like to get back into doing that. So our next game that we play, I like to watch the team and the game that they played before to kind of get an idea of what it is we're going at. Because I honestly, guys, I hate to say it, I think I was right on a lot of things last year on teams before we played them. Minnesota, Detroit, and there was several teams. Cincinnati, definitely. I told you guys exactly what was going to happen in the red zone, and we still messed it up. Things that I had seen and I had broken down on film from watching it a week before. So that may be something that I end up putting online and watching with a viewership if you guys are interested in doing that and catching my views on that. That's more of a one-time through. Maybe I'll go back and rewind and fast forward and rewind and watch things over. But it's not as consistent as watching a Redskins game. So look forward to that if that's something that you're interested in. Actually, if you're interested in me doing that, post it in the comments below if that's something that you would be interested in. But I'll be posting the links to that stuff on tomorrow's video, let you guys know exactly where that will be, where to tune in, and what time and all that, so you guys will have that available to you. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Bad loss for us. We go in with the big goose egg. We are 0-1 at this point, and we've got to get it together. We got a lot to work on, and hopefully next week we'll be able to pull it together. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Catch you all next time. For us fans of the Twin Feather, we ride together. Redskins for life. Peace out.